Example number 2, connecting the characteristics of a decreasing exponential function to its equation and graph. Predict the number of x-intercepts, the y-intercepts, the end behavior, the domain, the range, and whether this function is increasing or decreasing. Now I just want us to write a little note here. If the base is less than, well actually, if the base is between 0, not equals, is in between 0 and 1, then it's decreasing. Okay, 2/3, it's between 0 and 1, it's a decimal. Okay, it's a decimal that's less than 1. So we know that this one right here is going to be decreasing, because the base is less than 1 but greater than 0. We have right here our stretch factor. Our stretch factor here is 9, so A equals the stretch factor, which is 9. B is the base, which is 2/3, which is less than 1, so it's decreasing. Since we've identified that, let's look at the number of x-intercepts, the y-intercept, the end behavior, the domain, and the range. So the number of x-intercepts is always going to be 0. There are never any x-intercepts. The y-intercept now of a non-stretched function is always going to be 0, 1, but we're saying that it is stretched by a factor of 9. So the y-intercept is going to be found at 0, 9. The end behaviors, if we were to draw this one, the increasing would look like this, okay? But the decreasing looks like this. You're noticing something though. We're still traveling from quadrant 2 to quadrant 1. The domain here is still going to be x such that x is an element of the reals. And we have this asymptotic behavior that happens right on the y-axis. So this guy gets closer and closer and closer and closer but never touches. So the range is also going to be y such that y is greater than 0. Y is an element of the reals. Last but not least, we have to identify in our answer, even though we've identified it up here, in our answer we have to say it's decreasing, because the base is between 0 and 1. But don't take my word for it, let's graph it. So let's just clear this last one. So we're going to say 9, and then I'm going to put in brackets. Now this is important how to type it in, because if you say 9 times 2 divided by 3, you have to put around the brackets the thing that is raised to the power of x. Otherwise, it's going to go 18 divided by 3 to the power of x. So 9 times 2 divided by 3 to the power of x. And let's graph it. Hello. There we go. Oh, okay. So what I want to do is I want to make my window settings a little bit bigger so that I can see that. So window, I'm going to put my y max at 20 instead. There we go. Beautiful. So we can see from this there are going to be no x-intercepts here on the left-hand side of the y-axis, because it shoots off to infinity and goes, whereas this one gets super close, but it will never cross that x-axis. Okay, so you can get as infinitesimally close to the x-axis as possible, but you'll never actually touch it. But you can still go on forever in the x. So number of x-intercepts, it never touches it, so 0. Y-intercept, 0, 9. How do I find that? I'm going to go second, trace, value, x equals 0. Let's do that. Second, trace, value, x equals 0, dot, 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 our y equals 9. So we just found where that graph crosses the y-axis. The end behavior is still going from quadrant 2 to quadrant 1. The domain, like we kind of mentioned in the beginning, x's can be anything. Okay, so they can go from negative infinity to positive infinity, so x is in the element of the reals. Another way that we could describe it is using interval notation. Okay, you can say negative infinity to positive infinity. And we use round brackets because infinity is not a specific number, so it cannot be included in your answer. And the range is going to be from 0, because it will never be negative, from 0, but not including 0, because it will never touch the x-axis, to infinity. So we say y is greater than 0. Another way that we can write it is 0, infinity. And we're using a round bracket here because it does not include the value of 0. If it included the value of 0, we would use square brackets.